Father Vogel, continue our series on Ralph Martin's little book, Priest as Prophet, reflecting upon the prophetic ministry of the priest. So, last video I introduced the prophetic virtues that he lists, and we talked about fear of the Lord in the last video. The next two virtues are zeal for the holiness of God and his house, and zeal for the salvation of souls. So these point out kind of the two ends that we have in the church of what our goal is. Our goal is to give glory to God and also to bring about the salvation of souls. Actually, when the church even speaks about her liturgy, that's the two ends of the liturgy as well. That she offers the liturgy for the glory of God and the salvation of souls. So that's really what we are all about. Everything that we do is first to give honor and glory to God, and then also we want to bring about the salvation of everyone. I mean, that's God's main plan throughout salvation history, is so that we can share in his life and his glory. So, but specifically, he's talking about having zeal. Zeal for the glory of God's house, and zeal for the salvation of souls. So what is zeal? It's actually a theme that in last summer's series that I was talking about, St. Jean-Baptiste de La Salle's Meditations in Time of Retreat for Teachers, he spent a lot telling teachers to have zeal for their work as well. Incidentally, it's the same, well, not incidentally, unsurprisingly, it's the exact same work, the glory of God and salvation of souls, but applied specifically in their area of teaching their students. So, what is zeal? Well, zeal is a kind of enthusiasm or energy for that work of giving glory to God and saving souls. Martin says here in his book, he says, zeal is created through a confluence of knowledge and love that results in a single-hearted desire to take every opportunity to foster the salvation of souls and the honor and glory of God. So it requires all of our faculties, spiritual faculties, especially our intellect and our will. So if we have the proper knowledge of who God is and what his plan of salvation and the importance that it has, and if we have a proper love both of God and of our neighbor, then that should lead us to one purpose in our heart, one desire to take every opportunity for those ends, glory of God and salvation of souls. He says similar, or as a part, virtues that are part of zeal include fortitude, steadfastness, and determination. So kind of strength and the virtue to keep on going. Makes you think of like on this hike here, especially when we start going uphill, we're in need of that kind of perseverance, steadfastness along the way. And so that's also true in our path of following God, is that we need that kind of strength to be steadfast, to keep going, even when the path is difficult. He gives a quote from St. Thomas Aquinas, who describes in a greater way the intensity of love from which zeal will come forth. He says, Aquinas says, "It is evident the more intensely a power tends to anything, the more vigorously it withstands opposition and resistance. An intense love seeks to remove everything that opposes it. In this respect, a man is said to be zealous on behalf of a friend when he makes a point of repelling whatever may be said or done against the friend's good. So, and zealous on God's behalf whenever he uses the best means to repel whatever is contrary to the honor of God." So, he uses an example from the scriptures where Jesus himself goes in the temple, he kicks out the money changers who have been dishonoring God's house, saying that the zeal of your house has consumed me. Now, Martin's also quick to point out that this zeal is not just a a unguided amount of energy, as though you just act however. But no, it has to be guided, enlightened by the very wisdom of God, by both the proper knowledge of God and also the love of God and of neighbor, right? So, he also points that St. Paul had noticed this, that he had zeal when he was a Pharisee, but it was misguided. And so too, zeal can be misguided and done in an incorrect way. But probably in our day, in our time, what is the greatest danger is a kind of complete lack of zeal. A kind of just, sloth, sluggishness in doing God's will. He says, I think zeal is a virtue that's lacking in the response being made to the church's persistent call to a new evangelization, to form missionary disciples. We have been and will continue to hear those kinds of terms, because that's our goal, is to share the good news of the gospel. But we don't always do that. We don't always share that. And that's why we need to increase the virtue of zeal. He's going to continue on and talk about some things that we need to be formed intellectually as well as in our heart in order to be zealous to the Lord, and those are going to relate to some of the further virtues that we'll cover in the next videos. So we want to be zealous. We want to have great energy for these two end goals, the glory of God and the salvation of souls. God bless.